Hi, Rex here at RW Mods. I've been asked a few times to do a video on fuels, and I never really felt comfortable doing it. I didn't really want to go through and buy a bunch of fuel and test it, and you know um, all I could really speak on was my experience I've had with fuels. So um, I never really wanted to do a video on fuels, but I did got an engine in yesterday to rebuild, and I see this quite a bit, and I thought I would address an issue that I do see with some fuels. Um, so this is the fuel I've been running. I've been running Brew 2 or 3 years now. I run the 38% oil. That's kind of what I recommend for racing. I think if you're bashing, go 9 or 10%. Your engines are going to last a little bit longer. The guys that race like the 8% oil. It gets better fuel mileage. You're pushing a little bit harder, and that extra few seconds you're getting, maybe between 10 and 8, you might get 30 seconds difference maybe for runtime. I've never done a back-to-back test, but you get slightly better runtime with the 8% oil because the oil is actually taking up the percentage of nitro, or not nitro. You got 30. You're 2% less alcohol, and the oil doesn't burn, so you're going to make more power and a little bit more better mileage with a little less oil. But the reason I wanted to do this video was I got this engine in. Well, I guess I'll mention too. I have used this Brew break-in fuel, and it does work well, and it does seem to break the engines in a little bit faster. By the way, I just put these in the sun. I needed good light for the sun for the video, and do not store or keep your fuel in the sun. Cool, dry place away from the sun. Don't let your fuel get under freezing. Probably if it's a climate controlled. In the winter, I take my fuel inside, put it in the basement. I don't leave it out in the garage where it can get below zero and stuff. So this engine I got in is a Novarossi. Kind of look in the engine. It looks, there's kind of a residue in there. When I had to actually heat up this block to get the sleeve out. I do it on once in a while. I get engines that I have to heat up, and it's almost like a little shellac on the sleeve. It's and then the piston. I got a lot of carbon buildup on the piston. Not really sure. Some of this could be tune related. But the biggest thing here is like this crank looks, it's got some spatters of like oil on it. Looks like this guy, he possibly got a little bit of dirt in it. But it's dry. Like you look at the bottom of the crank, it's just dry. There's a little wet spot around a little wet around the crank pin here and stuff, but in the block, I mean, there's a little bit of a gritty residue, but a lot of engines I get, a nice little puddle of nice oil in there. I did ask how long this engine had been sitting. He said a couple months. And then it just kind of has a weird kind of a black residue. Doesn't look like this engine has a ton of time on it. But I do once in a while get this carbon, kind of thick carbon on them too, and it probably, I guess part of that is probably tune related, but the biggest thing is like the stuff just doesn't have any oil residue on it. It's kind of almost like a shellac on it and stuff too. And so this is the engine I just did the clutch video on. This engine sat since September. It's the end of March. It's March 31st. So this engine's been sitting 6 months. And if you look, this is what I ran the Brew. Pulled the back plate, and there's a nice oil residue. This engine's been sitting for 6 months, and just like a nice clean oil residue, like if you put some engine oil on it, or down so you get the sunlight here. Down in the block, it's little tint of color from the fuel, but nice and clean. No rust. That's a DLC. Which that's not a DLC crank. It looks like a DLC crank. This engine does not have a DLC crank in it. But there's no rust, and everything looks really good inside. And I don't have to run my engines. I don't run them. I don't run the tank dry. I got done racing this truck in September, the last race, and I shut it off, and I didn't drain the tank. I didn't do anything. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you look at this one, just everything looks kind of dry, and some. I'm gonna tell you. I did ask this guy. I was pretty sure that this was VP fuel, and I sent the guy a message. Said, "What fuel did you run?" And he said it was 20%, 20%, 9% oil, VP. And I was pretty sure it was VP, because when I have trouble getting the sleeve out, I had to heat up the block to get the sleeve out. A lot of times that they kind of get stuck in there. It's almost like once you heat up the fuel, the old fuel that kind of stuck between there, it almost kind of glues it together, and then once you heat it up, it comes apart. So he was running VP. I don't know which, if it was older fuel or whatever, but I do see this quite a bit, and I do ask sometimes, and most times it's VP. Now, I think performance-wise, the VP has no difference. See, even he said this was sitting 2 months. That rod is not falling. There's a little bit of drag there. And you kind of get this little dark residue. I mean, it's kind of a little, I get that all the time, and it's not just this engine or the way this guy ran it. Even engines without dirt in them. So I think the oil package on the VP is, I know it's better than it used to be. There was engines I would see 3 to 5 years ago, like literally the engines were totally dry inside and everything was just a dark coat on them. They were just nasty looking. But they've changed the oil package, and it is better, but I still not a big fan. See, look, it's kind of dark down there and stuff. But and people, I've seen people, I've gotten arguments online, when I said I didn't recommend VP. I try not to badmouth products, like I say, but if I can save you, a little bit of engine trouble yourself, I guess I don't have affiliations with any fuel company. So, and if you look at Brew, where it says on here somewhere, yeah, it says right there, uses VP fuels, nitromethane, and methanol, along with a castor synthetic blended oil package. So what that's saying is they use and when I argued with people online, they said, well, VP, they make Brew too. Well, Brew buys the nitro and the methanol. I haven't talked to Brent about this at all, but I'm assuming, VP's a big importer. They sell a lot of one-to-one car. They sell probably to Top Fuel and NASCAR and motocross and all kinds of fuels. So they sell a big volume, because RC car is not a very big market. So they probably had a good price. They probably have a good price, and probably are one of the only importers of nitro and alcohol. So he buys probably barrels of the nitro and blends it, and then uses a good oil package, just like Byron's does. So that's what the nitro and the methanol, 30% nitro, I'm sure there's better nitro than others, but not the important part of this fuel for our cars is the oil package. And it says right there he's using castor and synthetic. And I know I know VP was using, I think, 100% synthetic at one point, and I think that's when their engines were really bad. And I heard that they had done some testing, and they did their testings with engines with DLC cranks. They seem fine or whatever, because a DLC crank does have a little bit slippery crank pin and stuff, and it's not going to wear, obviously. So, and the good thing about this engine is it didn't really have a whole lot of crank and rod wear, just some rod wear, but it didn't have a ton of wear, so that is one good thing. You can even see that rod just kind of this dark. I don't. Maybe this guy used some aftermarket oil too or something. I'm not sure, but I'll have to ask him. But you just see the color of that rod, and I see it all the time. It's kind of almost like a dark color. So just thought I'd do a quick little video on this. Something I see once in a while, and I thought I got an engine in. I'll do a video quick. So I think that's about it for now. I guess I would say I can't talk about fuels that I haven't ran as much. I just did an engine for a guy that does torque. They run Torco, 20% Torco. They race. That engine looked perfect inside. No rust, nice oil in there. I don't think they run their stuff really lean too. But then I've ran, like I said, before I ran the Bones, I ran Byron's. Really similar fuels. I think they both really got their stuff together. A lot of guys like the Bones because I think it's, if they're buying a gallon or two shipped to their door, Bones has a pretty good price and a pretty good shipping price and stuff. I have in the past, my son was sponsored by Horizon, so he would get the Dynamite HP8, and that was a good fuel. We ran that for a long time. Stuff looked good inside. The Dynamite fuels are made by Morgan, who also makes Sidewinder. So Sidewinders, I ran some of the Sidewinder World's Blend and some of the other different Sidewinders, and engines look good. I didn't have to run oil. They look good also. So I can speak for those fuels, and with my personal experience, I tell guys, like, whatever is available close to you for a decent price, that whatever your hobby shop can get, or locally, or even like if you have to order, you don't have any local, the Bones Brew has the best price. Go with that. And if your local hobby shop, you want to support them, and they do have VP, get some castor oil and add just like a shot glass to a gallon or something. That'll kind of give a little better oil. It'll give you a little more cling. I think the castor oil, I'm not a fuel expert or anything, but I think the castor oil kind of is what gives you that clingy oil. Kind of sticks to stuff and just gets you that little bit better. The synthetic oils seem to be a little bit drier, and so that's one thing to do. I'm not saying don't ever use it. The guys I've rebuilt engines and they look decent inside and stuff. I don't know what blend or how old the fuel was. This could have been an older gallon. The guy got at the hobby shop that had been sitting for 3 years too, because I do know the VPs have improved. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching.